Blacksmithing has become a lost art, but we use it every single day and still look at it as an extremely valuable part of what we do.
It's something from the old, from way back.
There's not a book that you can go read that will tell you how to produce the things that are produced at Urban Forge.
It takes a craftsman to do something like this, to make everything look natural.
Being in a creative environment like Urban Forge, it's very inspiring.
Whenever I told them I was going to the ironworks, a couple of my friends were worried because it's obviously not the easiest line of work in the world.
Seems like every other day there's something new to be learned here.
It takes a lot of patience to become a blacksmith.
Every swing of that hammer has to be intentional, and it's coming from the mind of a person who's trying to move this thing into shape.
And it's a wonder that it can be done. As many guys as we have being able to do it, you know, and work together and build so many different things.
We want to make sure that the product is perfect as a handmade product can be.
When you're making something by hand, they don't always turn out exactly the same, and I think that is what makes them unique.
We don't want anything going out of our shop that looks like it could have been fabricated in mass. We want it to have the look and the feel of a handmade work of art.
We do know from the historical record that there were ancient pieces of iron and even bronze that were shaped with heat and force of a hammer and then the skilled hand of a blacksmith. So been around for a long, long time.
In the old days, they thought blacksmiths were almost magic, and they were highly regarded. It was a professional career. They were regarded in the same way that attorneys or doctors were. Except I tell people they had more reliable outcomes, that they could pretty much depend on making that work. I read a study recently that said that there were fewer than 500 full-time blacksmiths working in the United States today. Taught classes here in my shop, at the Ozark Folk Center, at the Arkansas Craft School, at Eureka Springs School of Art. You know, essentially blacksmithing is heating it up, changing the shape, and letting it cool. But the thing that I like the most about it is that it is a tangible thing. There's no intangibles about this. The material, the thing that you're using, has no limitations. Obviously, different metals react different ways, but it's your job to learn what to do, how to do it, when to do it. It has been a key part of the development of civilization, actually. There were blacksmith shops that people could make a living out of that did general blacksmithing work up until about 1960 or 65. In farming communities, ranching communities, mining, timber industry, they were still able to make a living. But these days, you have to be a crafter, you have to be an artisan.
I think what makes our people tick here has somewhat to do with the kind of environment that we're in right now. We live in a small community in the hills of Arkansas. The old timers call it hard scrabble because people worked really hard just to put a living together and did everything that they could do to make that happen. And so it's a tough environment, and people who grow up working hard have the attribute that you need in order to be a blacksmith in this kind of environment. But you also have to have creativity. So if people like Daniel, I can hand something off to Daniel and say, Daniel, I want you to create this table, and I want this table to hold up a thick piece of glass with branches, and I want it to have birds, and I want it to be a fall table, so there should be hand-forged leaves laying on the ground below it at the base. And Daniel will take that idea, and in his mind he pictures it, and then he can make his hands create that. And it's precisely the kind of people that we need in order to make a place like this work in such an isolated environment like the hills of Arkansas.
We wake up about 4 to 4:30 in the morning, and we'll usually drive out and pick up Mr. Dennis. and then we just go straight to Valero, across the street, get our breakfast. Even though I've been here for a little over 3 months now, it's still at times really difficult to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'll go to the back seat, that way I don't have to sit between Mr. Dennis and Dad. And whenever I figured out, oh hey, I can lay down back here and have the entire back seat to myself, I think I figured that out on my second day. It's like I can get an extra 15 to 20 minutes of sleep this way. Why not? .50, 6 o'clock, we come in, clock in, start getting everything ready. We'll make sure all the lights are on, turn our welders on, and then just start working. The first time I think I came to the shop, I was in kindergarten. And what it was I asked my dad, he would come home talking about work, talking about stuff he made. And he didn't have a phone at the time, so I had never seen pictures of it really. And actually got to see it firsthand, and that was probably the first time it really clicked. Like, I kind of want to try this. Working with Dad is interesting. Not bad at all.
You want to grab a couple more?
Yeah.
3/8.
3/8's got it. Oh, I was excited because I had no idea what anything was. I knew what a hammer and an anvil were, but that was about the extent of it. I'd heard about what a forge was. I had never seen a forge until that first time I came in.
I'll get 2 of them going.
When you get to the anvil, it's hard to get most guys to understand where to hit it to make it move how you want it to move. Look at there. I believe that looks pretty good. What do you think? Now, make sure you're flat that way.
Still trying to wrap my mind around all that. When I look at it, I just see one anvil, like just as it is, but there's a lot of different spaces to be used and reasons for all the nooks and crannies in there.
This business has been here since 1979. I joined the company in '91, sold my interest, left for 17 years, and then came back in 2007 to do a different thing with the company. That's when I brought Andy on board.
We wanted to expand and offer more things to our clients so that we could fit everyone. Urban Forge is really the pursuit of something new and fresh within Stone County Ironworks.
We have artisan blacksmiths and coppersmiths and wood carvers and finish artisans who all interpret wonderful designs that we create for people all across the country.
We look at the product as almost a storyline from inception until it's delivered to its client. And like a story, a really good story, it lasts forever, right? And that story continues to tell itself over and over and over again as the years go on. And in order for that to happen, we have to have some really unique blended elements to this story, right? So the people are extremely important at the foundational level. We have a plant here full of blacksmiths, men and women that are extremely skilled at the trade, and they pour their artistic energy into every single product that goes out the door here.
I've got to have music to work. I've got to have it loud. I like it loud. Rock and roll, hard rock. Now, you can put country on, you know, and just want to sit down and cry a little bit and then get back up and work. But rock and roll music, got to drown out the other noise best you can.
Dennis usually keeps control over the radio. Classic rock station here is pretty all right, but I like to listen to a little bit more faster paced stuff while I'm working. Keeps me going.
His name is Dennis LeMay, but everybody calls him Dennis LeMazing. And he is amazing. He was a blacksmith that had worked here and trained here for a number of years and then left and did other things. And I saw him at a gas station and told him, I'm gonna hire you, buddy. I need to hire you. It took about 2 or 3 years to get him to come back into the fold, but he's here now and doing a great job, and it's like he never left. But that's Dennis LeMazing.
We got a lot of different little tools, like this little twist machine right here. If you didn't know it, I don't know if you'd figure out how to use it, you know, it's crazy. The tools that we do use, they last for years on end. Trip hammers and air hammers and stuff. Then we got a lot of hand tools, hammers and tongs and fullers and stuff like that.
Grinders, welding machine, hands.
I got a knot canopy bed that we got to do, and I thought about putting braiding on it, so. There you go. Less heat's better than more heat.
Today, me and Dennis tied some knots, or he did, and I tried my best. So it was the first time I tried doing that. They go on a bunch of beds and handles and stuff here.
A little too far that way. I would knock that in. There you go.
He's been here about 25 some odd years, and this is my first time trying it, so it wasn't that easy.
Daniel Wade has been with us for a long, long time, a couple of decades. He's a carver, and he's a blacksmith, and he's a highly creative individual. William is Daniel's son, and we've watched him grow up over the years. And being a blacksmith, I don't think was his original aspiration, but somehow over the years, Daniel comes home and he shows him his work, and William comes up here and he visits. And I bought William a pocket knife for his birthday, and I've given him some other things and just encouraged him along the way. And I came back to work after a trip and found out that William was now employed by Urban Forge and being trained somewhat by his own father.
He told me that there was a few people who were excited I was starting out here. I was genuinely worried at first, but knowing that there were people that actually wanted me to be here to learn how to do blacksmithing, that were rooting for me, that made me want to keep going more and just say, well, you know, I'm not getting it right this time, but maybe I will next time.
I don't think it's a lost art anymore. It was going to be a lost art. In ancient times, they made tools. That was highly important thing, being able to make other tools. A good example of what they made is this nail right here. So until around 1900, no nails were made by a machine. Somebody had to stand in front of an anvil and make every single nail. But in recent times, particularly the last 15 years or so, there's been a renewed interest in the craft. That sound. I've had other people at the Folk Center tell me that as long as they could hear that anvil ringing, they knew things were okay.
He's been doing photography for several years, just as a hobby. And he's got one of them Canon digital camera, which I'm not quite used to, but I'd rather have film.
Gotta do it again. My dad is the one that initially got me into photography because he had an old, I know it was an old Canon, but it took the old film cartridges. I remember we would go to the zoo and stuff like that and he would take pictures like that, and I just eventually got to the point where, hey, I want to do that. Started trying to get into it, and yeah. I know it means a lot to him. He's been blacksmithing for a very long time. And he's always talked to me about it whenever I was little. I mean, it meant something, but it didn't mean something as in I understood. Yeah, blacksmithing definitely means a lot to him, and by passing it down, it kind of means a lot to me, too. So. Blacksmithing it's a little different for everybody. Everybody has their own way of doing things, and whenever you learn from somebody else, you kind of take a little bit from their way, but you may find something different that works, and you'll kind of mix and match and just find your own way of doing stuff. A lot of the inspiration to our designs is drawn from nature. A lot of the blacksmiths in general also think about this while they're building, well, we want to look as close to actual nature as we can, but at the same time, we want to make sure it still looks like it's iron.
What makes this area of the world so special are the people. It's a beautiful environment. We have hills, every element of nature that you can imagine. There are waterfalls and trails and places to fish and places to hunt and beautiful vistas to watch a sunset. So it's a remarkable part of the country in terms of just the available beauty. And that beauty is inspirational to us as a company. It's inspirational to people who choose to work here because much of our work incorporates nature.
Whether it's a leaf or a tree branch or a bark-like texture or even the silhouette of the piece, just its organic shape. A lot of that is put into Urban Forge pieces.
When you're just welding, fabricating stuff, you're just taking the straight edges and putting them together, whereas here we got all these curves and textures, and there's a lot of different elements to it. Cool to see a plain piece of metal go looking like bark.
And it takes a craftsman to do something like this, to make the pine cones, to make everything look natural. To me, it looks, yeah, just about as natural as you can get. 28 years ago, I was working in a shirt factory. Yeah. We were fixing to close. Shirt factory was fixing to go to Mexico. And the opportunity come up for me to get this job, and I took it. I had my hesitations because I wasn't sure of myself. It's just got its own unique pattern. And no matter how hard you try, you can't get two pieces to look alike because it is all hand done. I can tell you exactly who made what. I've been here so long. Different leaves, you can tell by different leaves. Yeah, I can tell you exactly who did it.
So one of the things that we are well known for are our leaves, right? Everyone here has learned how to make those leaves over time. It's a total hand process. They're not cut out or stamped out or anything of that nature. And it's just it's an extra added touch.
Just about everybody that make a leaf, it comes out the same result, but make it differently. They have their different steps in the way they make it. I think each individual has his own style. He may learn the same concepts in order as anyone else, but you pick it up on what fits you.
The blacksmith will go out and they'll select the raw materials that they want, the iron, the steel. They'll get it cut to length the way that they want it. It comes over to their table, and they put the whole thing together from top to bottom. So it's their piece.
But in a handmade piece that have those little elements and detail, it's a way for a blacksmith to kind of put their stamp on it one last time, and it's there forever.
So I get it started, and then I can continue with it tight. You don't like a saggy seat. I love to sew. I have sewed ever since I was about 5. My mother started me out making doll clothes. Here, I'm responsible for all of it, but I enjoy it, and I love sewing. Out of bullets. And, you know, there's not many skilled sewers anymore. I tried to teach my granddaughters, and they were not interested at all. When you're making something by hand, they don't always turn out exactly the same, and I think that is what makes them unique.
The Matter that we're one of the few places that does this type of thing.
It's an artisan-led company.
It gives you a special feeling to be able to work with artisans.
We've been able to take, you know, what we've witnessed in history and form a company out of that same idea.
Bend that around, that little flat piece right there, just a little bit crooked. Creativity from a background aspect does, I think, help. I think played a big part on my behalf of learning it and being able to learn how to do it. I picked up pretty quickly on it, but it does have, that may be why some can't pick it up, you know what I mean? Didn't have that green thumb or black thumb.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly call myself an artist. I'm not quite to that level of expertise yet. But there's a line that I heard somewhere that I stick to when it comes to things like this. I know a little about it, a lot, and a lot about nothing, so.
Heritage. You know, I grew up like this, and I'll die like this. You know, it's part of my heritage. Me, Dennis, and Daniel has gone back for years. You can rely on them, you can depend on them.
We tried to watch out for each other as much as possible to make sure nobody gets burnt. Keep them from getting hurt if you can. Because I know it's just skin, it'll heal, but
we all help each other where help's needed. And sometimes we help them when they don't want help, you know, and then they run you off. But I don't know, I think we all just, we're there for each other if one is needed, you know, by someone.
Yeah, it's definitely like a family.
He's a good kid. He hasn't been here that long. He's probably been here 6 months, maybe. Daniel wanted him to follow in his footsteps, and that's what he's doing.
the only one I'm really interested in passing everything on to that I know is my son. There's a lot of stuff that I do know that I won't teach anybody else besides him. As long as we can take the time and have the patience with him, I think he'd make a decade of him a good blacksmith.
Seeing it firsthand, being able to experience some of the stuff I've heard about, it adds a little bit more, I guess, validity to it. You know, no two pieces of metal are like, you can't bend two pieces to be exact. They're always gonna be a little bit different.
Watch, it's still hot right there.
Yeah, I know. I'm not grabbing it there. I've learned my lesson.
Cool it off real quick. You want to try the next one, or you want me to?
I'll give it a shot.
I don't know what I done, but what me and his mom done, but he's turned out a lot better than what we expected. Thank goodness he didn't give me and his mama the headaches that I give my parents.
Okay, if I glance at this one real quick. Got it, okay. Well, it's another form of art, to put it simply. And you know, other forms of art are celebrated around the world, so why not blacksmithing? It was a major part of life back years and years ago. May not be as as needed, but it's still in its own right a beautiful form of art.
There's a lot of machines out there now that they can take pictures and reproduce it with the machine. And that's not the same as doing it handcrafted. Not bad. Not bad. It passed. It passed. First try. As far as telling him how special it is for me to have him up here working with me, I think he pretty well knows it. I've got a lot of love for him. He's about the most important thing in the world for me right now. I wouldn't trade the last 4 months for nothing. Him working up here with me, I wouldn't trade it.
It took me a lot to learn what I learned, what I know, and I still learn. I get things that come along that like, golly, how am I gonna do that? We gotta teach the new guys like William and Braden to do it, or it is gonna be lost, or this ain't gonna be around much longer.
It takes sometimes 2 or 3 years to create a master blacksmith. I can't remember in the last number of years where we've ever had an opportunity just to hire a blacksmith off the street. It typically doesn't happen that way.
I feel that there are people out there that would be great at it, and I don't think many people know, that this exists.
The art of blacksmithing and working with metal in that way, I don't want to see that lost. I don't want to see that gone. I want to see it carried on to the next generation, and I want them to see the value that it holds.
Once knowledge is lost, it's really hard to get it back to the same state it used to be. Like, where there's been techniques lost over the years, there's been knowledge lost, and we may never get that back, as sad as it is.
I just wished I actually had enough time to pass all of it on to them. The knowledge needs to be passed down. It definitely does. As far as production blacksmithing, I can kind of see it coming to an end for some people, because older bodies just don't hold up like it used to.
I've run across several guys, young guys, that want to do it and is interested in it. And in reality, they're the ones that would keep it going. But if it's not passed down, it's going to be lost, Well, all the ones I know, they're my age.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to carry on the tradition. Definitely.